So I remember the first time I heard the Code of Values. I thought, wow, it's brilliant. And one of the things that I've always wondered is, do other companies try to borrow them, steal them, adapt them? What does that look like?
Yes, all the above.
Okay.
So there are some that have called us and said, can we use your values? And I encourage them, and through Values Inc., I encourage folks not to do that. First of all, it is trademarked, but I encourage them to create their own. It really needs to be personal to who you are as a leader and your organization. What's really important to your organization? Some have taken them. In fact, some competitors have taken our values word for word and copied them, put them on their website and the whole bit. So you have to decide, is that big of a deal that we're going to go chase them down or not go chase them down? But all the above. I think that the most beautiful thing about it is I can't even count how many companies have now created their own core values and systematize them. So that's really the key. You can have values all day long, but if you're not practicing them and have a system for keeping them front and center amongst your team, they're not going to help you. They're not going to do anything for you. In fact, they can hurt you, right? Like an Enron years ago who said, hey, here's our values. Everybody in the handbook signed off that I'm going to follow these values. And then the leadership team completely violated those values. So it's a beautiful thing when people realize, and the thing that I've been faced with the most is a lot of leaders, a lot of CEOs of big companies would say, that's nice, but it's kind of that warm and fuzzy thing that doesn't translate into financial results. And we've got to make a living here.
Yeah.
So again, the book Values Inc. was written to really help them identify that, oh yeah, you can be profitable and not have values and not lead with values. Yeah, you may not last very long. The companies that are most profitable and are sustainable are the ones who truly live their values. A Chick-fil-A, right? Yeah, so you can be a good company, you could be making a nice profitability, but there's other companies that are leading with their values that are going to make over time more than you're making and are going to outlast you.
No question. As I look at the Code of Values, I do wonder, do you have favorites?
I do.
Tell me about what's one of your favorites?
Well, the favorites are the ones that I have to work on the most. So I could give you a whole list. I think we've got 15 altogether, but there are two in particular that have stood out for me over time. And that reminds me, Matthew, even at the beginning of our annual board meeting, at the beginning of the year, we would go around the table and ask for every board member to give their New Year's values resolution. Which value do you need to most work on? And the funny thing is everybody was not funny. It's wonderful. They were all honest because we're all shaking our heads going, oh, yep, that is the value you need to work on. So my two are listening with the intent to understand what is being said and acknowledging that what is said is important to the speaker. I'm busy thinking about what I want to say next sometimes, and I'm not really listening to what the person has to say. My other favorite one, and I got a lot of pushback when I was leaving the company on this one from new people coming into the organization, and it's everyone has the right to their own perspective. And I have people say, no, I'm not going to agree with somebody else's perspective. I mean, if you think about the world we live in today, and there's so many, there's always been diverse perspectives. The world would be boring if there weren't, but man, today. So when faced with a tough, let's call it a political discussion, right? You may have a very different perspective than I do. How do I show respect to your point of view? I listen, right? And I ask good questions. And I become curious. So instead of being defensive, right? Defensive posture just usually takes place right away when you don't agree with somebody else's point of view. Instead, opening up your posture and saying, I really do want to understand why you think the way you think. And it's fascinating what you can learn about why somebody has a perspective that's so different from yours. And what I've discovered is no matter what, I always learn something. I still may not come around and agree to their point of view, and that's okay.
Understood.
And I'm not saying you have to agree. It's just recognize that they have the right to their own perspective. They were raised in a different culture, possibly different environments. Who knows what they've lived with? It's a beautiful one. It's a hard one, but it's a beautiful one.
Yeah. Having fun in the process.
Oh.
Talk to us about that.
That came from during the phase of me becoming the CEO of the company. I told you we had a couple of key leaders on the team that had gray hair already, right? They've been around a while, very
Sure.
wise. And I'll never forget asking David Bethay. He was a leader of, I think, two of the brands at the time. And I said, David, I need leadership advice. I've got so much to learn. He said, Dina, you got to love what you're doing. You've got to have fun doing it. Otherwise, it's going to be hard for you and for all the people around you. But you also have to realize when it's not fun anymore, it's probably your time to exit the business.
Mm.
And so we made having fun in the process a value as a result of my conversation with David Bethay, who was just so honest about it. And, people, when they would join our organization or we'd go through the values at the beginning of a first meeting with somebody maybe that's going to be a vendor, they were like, wow, that's just not normal that you would have a company talking about fun in their core values. And we're like, it's just critical. Good, moral, ethical fun, but we all should be having fun with what we're doing. Yeah, there's
Yes.
tough stuff we have to deal with, but man, we should be enjoying what we're doing mostly.
Yeah.
And you have to incorporate that though, right? Because you can get busy. You can get busy in the busyness of running a business and forget that. We've got to bring fun into this.